I used to be a dancer who spoke in my dances, and now I'm a storyteller who moves in my stories. And so I've had a long history of doing storytelling, but only recently have I called it storytelling. Sometimes I call it story performing, what I do. Let's see, when I was, I like to use other languages in my stories. When I was a dancer, I would, when we were in South America, I would use Spanish for the scripts. And in Europe, I would speak in French or in English. Now, I really didn't know Spanish, so I would have my scripts translated, and I would learn them by rote. But this got me started in learning Spanish, and I remain interested in learning Spanish. So I like to use phrases from other languages. In the Arabian Nights stories, I use Farsi and phrases. Usually it's just phrases that I use. And how did I become a storyteller? I was really getting too old to dance. Everything started hurting. This hurt right here, this hurt here, this hurt here. And I wanted to become a writer. And I needed a practical credential, something to support me as a writer. So I went to library school thinking that library was something that you sort of, did and did not spend a lot of energy doing. And then I would go home and do what I really wanted to do, which was write. And that's not what library is about at all. Library is a very active endeavor. And I have become a librarian, but I'm only a substitute librarian, and I work very rarely in the children's department at the Urbana Free Library. But in library school, I took a storytelling course. And my storytelling teacher was Janice Harrington, who's a wonderful storyteller. And she gave me her leftover engagements and got me started on my career as a storyteller. But then I found that my dance career was really the beginning of my storytelling career, and I took off from that point. And now that I'm the author of several books, I do author visits and storytelling visits, and it just expands my work as a storyteller. I'm on my way to New Mexico to the Bloomfield area, and I will be doing performances for Navajo children. And because my second book is bilingual in English and Navajo, Zinnia, How the Corn Was Saved. And I will actually have another book coming out in Navajo and English. And then I expect to be doing more performances in Utah, in that area, with those books. And so this has expanded my storytelling. But the reason that I do this is because, one, it's a lot of fun. And I want the kids to read. I think it's really important for kids to read. And I think that by seeing these story performances, they're inspired to read. They're inspired to tell their stories. They're inspired to read more stories. I also work with the kids to create their stories. I do workshops either in assembly or in individual classrooms to develop the students' stories. And that's a lot of fun. And I always start with the drama. And we work with in a very dramatic nature, and we work with movement. And the story always comes from movement because they love to move. The kids are free to be dramatic and move, and then the story comes easily after that. I never start them with writing the story, but first they do the movement, then they tell the story orally out loud, and then the writing of it might come next, or they might never write the story. They might just tell the story, and it helps with public speaking as well. And I always encourage the kids to go home and tell some of the stories they heard, or just invent stories to tell.